tell a little about your Parkinson story?
So, 13 years ago, my mother died, and that's when I started the tremor. I had no thought that I had Parkinson's. Then 8 years after that, which has been 5 years ago, I broke my arm. I had a proximal humerus fracture, which is very painful and awful, and because they can't put a cast on it, so you just have to let it hang. So then it seemed like Parkinson's kind of took off, which I hear happens with traumatic events. Something else can turn into Parkinson's. So I spent 2 years just kind of trying to tell myself I didn't have Parkinson's. And then I went to the neurologist and she told me I did. And I kind of knew it by then. So I resisted medication for about a year. And then I just felt like I was going to fall again. I got terrified of falling again. And so I started medication, and I was glad to have it at that time. And then I started almost immediately, maybe 6 months later, I started trying to reduce it, which I was successful at going down to, I started with 3, and I was successful at going down to 2.5 with no problem whatsoever. Now I'm trying to take it down to 2, and I've been on that several months. So I discovered this picture probably maybe about a year ago, because I changed neurologists and I took it to the new guy, and he would just look at it and say, huh. I said, can you tell me anything? He said, I don't think so. He didn't know what to make of it. But I thought right away, I knew all my traumas. I don't think I have any unknown traumas, but I just thought, that's where it started in my hand. And my hand is even worse now. So it just seems like it's been a progression since I was 20. Who knows when I started doing that hand thing.
What do you think about the thought that it is related to a dramatic event in your life?
Absolutely, positively. I think the body reflects everything that we're thinking and doing. And I had taken a course on, it was called Holistic Biomechanics, about 12 years ago. And it was all about fight or flight. And we did this treatment to each other where people would just put their hand on you. She called it compression. It's compression. And I would go to sleep, but my left shoulder would be like jerking, like, don't touch me there. Because I think I got held down. So I was real sure that that was part of that trauma. So I started having bladder and kidney infections when I was about 4 years old, I believe. And they did this treatment on me where they catheterize you in the doctor's office to stretch your urethra. So the feeling is that you're not voiding completely. You're not eliminating all your urine completely. And if you had a bigger urethra, you could do that. Of course, for a 4-year-old, it feels terribly like a violation, and there's no explanation that can satisfy a 4-year-old. And it was, of course, really awful. And I discovered with you that I was reaching for something to kind of hold on to. And I think they were also holding me down. And now I'm talking about my legs just going like crazy. And reaching with no success of any kind. I believe that I was on a treatment table, a doctor's treatment table.
Yeah. And you reach out to get some
or maybe to try to stop them or something. There weren't any railings that I recall.
No. But it could just be the edge of the table.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, if it was the edge of the table, it makes sense about how my hand is curled, because I was trying to like grab onto the edge.
Yeah, that was what we sort of found out last time, that you stretching it's resonated with this memory. So when you reached out, the memory came to you while you did this movement.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had the memory before, but never was it so visceral. No, never was it so. It was more in my head, not in my body.
Yeah.
I hadn't let it come up from my body. I have in the past, but not for many years, let it come up.
And that's what, when things are so dramatic as this episode, the body and mind is sort of separated because it's too much to feel all these feelings and fear and anger and shock. So a shock is actually you splitting up your mind and body to protect yourself.
Right.
Yeah. So
and that it wasn't just one time. It was several times over the years.
Yeah, and what we do in therapy, or I help you to reconnect with this, and even if it's not nice to do so, that's a way to slowly dissolve this memory and get back a better movement and in that hand and finger.
Right, and have more peace of mind.
Yeah.
Peace of body, mind, body.
And maybe you could tell people that it seems like you all the way have been pretty sure that the trauma of your life have had a big impact on your body.
Well, I have scoliosis too, and I think part of maybe that was trying to get away. There was no place to go, and I was just twisting and trying to get away.
Yeah. So the idea that these situations have this big impact on your body, what would you like to tell other people?
I'd say that any image that we have of our past is 99% sure to be true. That's what it seems to me. We don't really lie to ourselves. We lie to ourselves in trying to keep it away, but we don't lie to ourselves that it happened.
And this memory, did you consider it to be a trauma?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Because often people think, oh, it was at the doctor's and everything was in secure settings. And
every time I go to the doctor, it's traumatic for me. I have this really nice neurologist now, and he says, "Why are you nervous? I'm just here to help you." Well, you know.
Okay, then it fits together with this picture.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. But thank you for telling us a little about this. And that's what I see in most of my clients, that these past memories, small or big trauma, is having a big impact. And by resolving them, you slowly get more and more relaxed. So now we have had a session in 1.5 hours where we have dealt with this body memory that is not only one body memory, but there's a series of body memories from you driving to the doctors and you being alone with doctors, you being vulnerable and being able that you needed to take off your clothes. So we have dealt with I think 5 to 7 smaller body memories in this bigger trauma. What do you think about this idea, taking also the small body memories?
Well, I think it's good, because otherwise I can see where things could get lost. And when I was doing it on my own before you taught me this today, I would do one over and over and over again, which was fine. It was kind of working. However, I was kind of skipping around. Yeah. And that was fine too, but I could see this is better.
Yeah. So we are dealing
more thorough.
Yeah, we're dealing with all small facets of this trauma because it's not one trauma. It's maybe 100 small traumas for every year, for every situation, and it can seem like a long, tedious work, but that's a way to get rid of big traumas like this.
It's like I'm getting the image of sweeping up the corners of the room. The dirt gets hidden in the corners, and you may have the main floor cleared, but the floor near the corners, there's still dust and little things that need to be swept up.
And that's a good metaphor. And what happened that, let's say, if you, for example, have 50 traumas during these 10 years in relation to this bladder infection and visiting doctors that were on, can we call it in a violent way, put this catheter on you, you need to address all these facets one after the other. And even if it's a long process, I give you the skills to take these trauma one after one. So do you think that you could continue this work alone?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because
it's nice to have the support, but I can't be tied to you 24/7, so.
Yeah, and when I started this work, finding out that people with Parkinson's and a lot of other chronic diseases, they can actually be helped a lot by this, by taking all these body memories very serious. I thought, yeah, but we hear the stories about Americans going to a psychiatrist every week, but that's not the way. I must find some tools that people can do themselves. And that, I think I've done that. I found a toolbox that people that are really dedicated, they can just learn the tools one after the other and use the one that they find useful or appropriate in a certain situation, and they can continue the work themselves.
I think it's really helpful, because otherwise we don't get taught what to do with all this tension. And, it just builds and builds and builds until you're shaking or something else happens. Then you just can't stand it anymore. You just have to let it go because your body can't take it anymore. But this is like a systematic thing that can actually help reduce the tension and take it away for good, instead of just temporarily waiting for it to come back some other trigger time.
Your trauma is so complex. There's a lot of trigger points. That's strange people. It can be
all doctors.
All doctors. It can be maybe even a certain color from that room, or if it was.
Oh yeah, that's sickly green thing.
And if the doctors, he was dark-haired, there's so many triggers. So next time a dark-haired person come nearby you, you get a trigger. And to take all these small things serious, you can slowly reduce these trigger points to zero. And it's when you have got this toolbox, I learn people, it's just to take the time. And every time you have half a whole an hour, go to your room and say, why am I so anxious today? Why am I so angry today? Why am I having this feeling? And then start using the toolbox, and you'll find out, oh, it was because this and that person knocked on my door, or I was in this and that situation. Then you can slowly take the tension out of any situation.
So what you just said about take it all seriously and as important, because we tend to not do that. We tend to just say, oh, that's nothing. I'm just being silly. I can't possibly have a trigger over that because it's just so small. But it's exactly what we do.
Yeah. So taking all small things serious, because you don't know if it's a color or a touch on your right arm or a man with dark hair. You don't know what your trigger points are on before you investigate it in this what can you say, detailed way. Especially a big trauma like this, we must take it step after step. What do you think about, you have already got, what, 4 or 5 sessions, you have got a toolbox from me. What do you think about this toolbox?
I like it. It's good. It's been good for me so far, so I'm going to continue to do it, that's for sure.
Yes, good. I'll let you loose here and stop.